morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Whatever you're doing or wherever you are in the world, we're tuning in to try something different. How do I say this plainly? God has a way of working things in His own season, and even though I thought I had a plan, things have gone their own way, and I am just a vessel. So while I'm not in charge, I am responsible for listening carefully and pivoting where it's important. What we're doing today, if I could keep it all the way plain, I don't have a polished panel. I don't have a well produced workshop. What I want to do is just hold space to listen. This particular part one of a three-part series on the theme that I'm running with is it's a planting theme. It has to do with, let me see, I have it right here. Um, Power practice and possibility. So this particular session is called Nobody Asked You, where I want to sit and actually listen to the folks that are in the building and have something to say. And then the next one, I think I'm going to go with a Frederick Douglass theme. You want the harvest, till the soil. So I want to deal with where's the real labor at in order to improve education. And then finally, this is what we're planting, setting out a vision for what season five will look like. But in order to get to that point, I've got to listen. And so shout out to Miss Lady and others who may be coming into the room. What I'm interested in doing is hearing. What do you have to say about this essential question? What are the real problems in education? And so I hope that I can get some important feedback as I plan what season five is going to look like. As far as I'm concerned, um, a lot of us in the education space are doing a lot of work and we're making a way out of no way, as the old tradition says. We're trying to teach our students, but we have an incomplete toolkit. We are, as parents, we're raising kids in a system and a society that's not built around them. And so trying to survive and serve at the same time is a trick bag. What I want to say is, when was the last time somebody asked, how are you doing? When was the last time that somebody really made a pivot and said, what's really going wrong in education? Where are we getting it right? And where are we getting it wrong? Because a lot of times, and I have spent a lot of time blaming the policymakers and those in the tower and the people at district office, saying they're so disconnected with what's going on in the classroom. And that criticism goes all the way back to No Child Left Behind. But listen, don't get me on a soapbox. I actually want to hear what you guys have to say. But as I set the tone for what I hope to accomplish in our more relaxed session today, is when was the last time that we as teachers, we as administrators, even down on the school site level, when was the last time that you had somebody in the professional education space where you send your kids every day, where you assume that they're going to be safe and you turn over custody of your child's lives to these professional educators and colleagues of mine? When was the last time somebody from that sector sat down with you and said, what are we getting right and what are we getting totally wrong? And so that's what I hope to accomplish today, because we're in our intercession and I want to use your feedback to help us build out what season five is going to be looking like. I want it to be custom to the real interest. So I'm intending to flip the mic. I don't want to necessarily just field complaints, but at the second half of our time together, I want to also look at solutions. And so ultimately, it's good to define, but then it's also important to solve. And so Ayo, I'm glad that you're here. Glenda, glad that you're here. This is an open stage. This is a listening session. I'm the host of Educators House. I've been running multiple seasons. We just finished up season 4, and I want to take this time to pivot and turn the mic over to you guys. If you are a professional educator, if you're a parent of a school-age child or an advocate interested in what's going on in education, I want to hear from you. This is a no-pressure space, so if you're just here in the listening lounge to see what comes up, you're more than welcome to chill. But in the meantime, I am not here to sanitize. When I do my highly produced shows on Sundays, I typically have an expert who comes and speak. I have a group of my trusted panelists who come and weigh in on the topic from a variety of perspectives. I've got, what can I say? Psychologists on my panel. I've got professional educators, both as administrators and classroom teachers at a variety of levels. I have, what would I call it? Mid-level university professionals. So we are our diverse group. I also deal, Clinda, with technologists. I deal with ed tech people, authors. I mean, there's a full range. Montessori advocates, public school advocates, homeschool advocates. We've got a range of people that are part of this community. And what I want to do as the host is turn the mic back to the listening lounge and say, hey guys, glad that you guys are coming. Glad that you guys are committed to this experience. But what can we do better? How can we serve? And how can we customize what we offer to what's interesting to you? So if you want to come up onto the stage, you're more than welcome to. I sent an invite, but I don't exactly know. Oh, shoot, Black Think Tank has a pink ticket. We're going to have to do something about that, my brother. The stuff that we know from experience, the stuff that we feel in our bodies, the things that we whisper in the hallways, the things we complain about in the homes, or at the water cooler. These are the things that it's time to expose. So I don't have a full on sermon. But I do have an invitation. Let's keep it raw. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it unfiltered. And let's try to get down to those elephants in the room, to say those things that haven't been said. Because if I'm going to move forward in wisdom, then I need to use my ears twice as much as I use my mouth. So, Mr. Black Think Tank, glad that you're here. Mr. KJ Networker, I'm going to send you guys invites as well. But let's get started. Black Think Tank, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, sir. How are you today?
I'm well, man. I'm very well. Just going to run some errands right now. How you guys doing?
Yeah, doing good, man. You're right on time. I know you're busy, so if you don't mind, I'll try to tap in while I have the chance. And then, once you get out and about, you probably move into listen only mode. I have two essential questions, and I know that you are in the space, if not directly, certainly as an adjunct. The essential question is, what's wrong with education? I don't know if you have kids, I don't know if you are in the classroom or whatever, but from your perspective as an advocate for our children, I wonder, what is your primary criticism of the education system? How has it failed our kids? That's my essential question. Mike is yours.
I have 9 children,
Oh,
and
you, oh, you more than ready. Let me get my pen out. Go ahead.
yeah, I have. There's a lot of things um, that I think that could be improved upon, but I think survival. They don't teach how to survive. Um, they don't teach how to do things in an emergency situation.
Mhm.
They don't teach practical application of mathematics to actually solve problems. They don't talk about the fundamentals of like uh, that are essential across whatever industry you want to go to, like communication, and then being able to explain things from a higher level and a very detailed level. Those are just some of the critics. I can go on and on, man, but those are just some of the things that I think are very, very important to our children and their development.
No, I appreciate that. I'm going to resonate with you a little bit, and then I'll push over to Nona Florence. Mr. KJ, Laquita, glad that you guys are here. You're welcome to join. It's a no pressure space, but the essential question is, what's wrong is phase one. And then when we get to phase two, where are the solutions, right? How do we fix it? So I'm going to give you the magic wand and invite you to paint a picture of what education could or should look like. So that's what we're going to be tackling today. To your point, Black Think Tank, first off, I think you're right. We have, as a system, we have been stuck in this third industrial revolution model, right? And we could go back into the history. I'll try to do it briefly for those who aren't very familiar with it. But Rockefeller gets a lot of credit for the way that education is still taught today. And I would even give a honorable mention to Henry Ford for establishing this assembly line protocol. And that really changed things for the way that the nation worked. The school system started to reflect that because we no longer, what we needed was good workers. And so the school system was designed, A, to identify who are the highly intelligent, who can move into the management class, and who needs to stay on the assembly line floor. And so when we see things like the grade point average, that was designed to separate students in order to place them. When we see things like SAT scores, these were all designed, intelligence quotients, right? These were designed to separate who's our intelligent class and who is our worker class. Then we also can look at the way that schools are designed but themselves. A lot of people say they look like prisons. I have worked in my fair share of schools that look like prisons. But you know, this whole concept, let me say this before I get to my point. Back in the day when we had the single room schoolhouse, there was a totally different model for education, and the outcomes and expectations were completely different from what we see today. There's nobody alive today that remembers what it was like then. But what we see today is this factory system. Kids are lined up in rows. They all read from the exact same textbook, or, you know, these days, the online curriculum. And so it is not customized. So when you talk about things like how to survive, you talk about practical math, my bro, it's not even designed to approach the problems in those ways. We want to factory system these kids out, whether that's school to prison pipeline or school to university pipeline. But we're not teaching kids how to be entrepreneurs. We're not teaching them how to, how to farm. We don't teach them how to manage a home. There's not a lot. But the argument, and now I'll close with this and pass it along, unless you want to respond, Black Think Tank. The argument is we're giving the fundamental knowledge, and then they will be able to build when they get to university level or perhaps in the real world of life. And so a lot of people would say it's not meant to do that. We're not supposed to do practical stuff. We're just supposed to lay in that basic groundwork, teach them how to get along, teach them how to be obedient, obedient, and then you can take it from there. Black, did you want to respond to any of that before I pass it on? All right, he may be in listen only. I know he's out and about. Nona
Give
Florence.
me just a second here.
Yeah, no problem. I'll come back to you. Just give me a flash when you're back on the mic. Nona, my dear, we're early in the room, so I'm going to give you a chance to cook a little bit if you have the time and interest. You can either respond to what you heard, but honestly, Nona, I want to hear your response to the essential question. What
Okay,
is wrong with
so
education? Mike is yours.
okay, so one of the things that I have kind of learned as a historian is something about what we call the four essential truths.
Hmm.
Um, so they would be forensic truth, personal truth, social truth, and reconciliatory truth. And I think one of the major problems with education today, especially what we're seeing now, is that people are not not standing on a baseline, right? That there are some things that are forensically
Today,
true, right?
especially
Um, we, I'm sorry.
No, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So there are some things that are forensically true. We have evidence. We have artifacts. We have firsthand accounts. We know things happened. We know things existed. And today you have people that are just not uh, acknowledging forensic truths. Like that should be a baseline for all of us, right? And then you have people not acknowledging personal truths, like what people who just refuse to accept the truth of somebody's lived experience.
Hmm.
Like if it happened to Carla, it happened, right? And I shouldn't sit here and argue with Carla about what her life experience is, right? Right. So part of the what's wrong with education right now is that we are sitting here arguing about stuff that is forensically true, and we are also sitting here arguing about other people's truth through their lived experience. So we should not have a fight over whether or not slavery existed, right? We should
Mm-hmm.
not have a fight over whether or not the Holocaust existed. We should not have a fight over, whether Thomas Jefferson owned slaves. So we should not have a fight over, but that's the stuff we want to fight about. But we know it to be forensically true. We've got the artifacts. We've got the firsthand accounts. We have the archival records. Why are we wasting our time fighting about that?
Let me jump in, Nona. What is the third truth? You talked about the forensic truth and the personal
Okay.
truth. I didn't write down that third one. And
The
speak to that.
third, so
Yeah.
it's factual. It's factual truth.
Uh-huh.
It's personal truth. It's social truth,
Social truth. Talk to me about social
and then
truth.
it's okay. So social truth is probably where we need to, if we're gonna have arguments, that's where the argument should start, right? And so that means social truth is the truth that we come to as a society,
Mm.
right? So I shouldn't be arguing about whether or not slavery existed. It did. We've got the factual evidence. I shouldn't argue with Carla about her lived experience as a Black woman and the fact that she's afraid of police. If her experience is I'm afraid of police, that's her experience.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to be arguing with her about, her lived experience. But if we're gonna argue, we need to elevate the fights to what we would call social truth.
Mm.
So a social truth is are all police bad, right? Or are all police good? That's a social truth that we all have to come together as a society. Um, some of us are gonna say no, police are great. Some of us are gonna say no, police are horrible, right? Depending on our lived experience. And so if we're gonna have arguments, we need to start the arguments there, right? And I think and then the reconciliatory truth is something to the effect of, okay, um, I can understand that maybe uh, we have to reform the policing system because not everybody in our society views police the same way.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a reconciliatory truth, right? But if we are stuck on fighting over forensic truth, and if we are stuck fighting over personal truth, um, then we never get to societal truth, and then we never get to that highest level of reconciliatory truth, right? Um, and so I think that's one of the biggest problems with education right now is that we're trying to change factual truth and we're trying to minimize personal truth.
Well, let me jump in here, and then I'm going to pass it to Laquita. First, I'll give some greetings to the room. A lot of folks have come in, a lot of folks that I really respect, so I hope to hear. Let me explain what's going on to those who are new to the space. Number one, this is a listen-only session. I am in the intersession. We've closed down season 4. Consider this like summer school, and then we'll start up on season 5 in not too many days from now. So what I want to do is to take this pause for the cause and actually listen to our community to answer 2 essential questions. Question number 1, what are the essential problems in education? If we could identify those problems, then we can move into phase 2 of our time together today. Let's get solution oriented. And so what I heard from Nona is this idea of the 4 truths, right? Forensic truths, what's objectively true here? And we've got some controversy there. She's right. Personal truth is for me, the I in inclusion, right? Do I have room for your truth to exist, even if it's different from my personal truth? and accept the idea of lived experience as valid. And then we've got social truth, right? This concept of collective truth. And that also changes from one society to another. We've got subcultures here. And so making room, but also attempting to reach consensus. From what I heard Nona say, that's where the real work is, because we can push towards what is actually true for our society. And then this reconciliatory truth is based on what I heard. It's the attempt to synthesize all of the three prior truths into something. That's where the real work is. And from what I hear, that's what education ought to be doing. So Nona, I'm going to come back to you because I want to hear when we get into the solution phase, what your thoughts are about that. But to the audience, before I pass it to you, Laquita, I'm going to send out invitations because I really want an active stage. I really am interested in hearing what you guys have to say. And so, let me just get these invites out. Ash is in the building, relationship mentor. I'm glad that you came through. Glenda, Amunette, Annette, of course. I'm not going to say I'd be insulted, but I do hope to hear from you. In the meantime, let's pass over to Laquita Milton. Laquita, the essential question we're struggling with: what's wrong with education today? The mic is yours.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much, Susan. I would like to say there are so many problems in education,
Girl,
and
I know it.
yes, one of the first things that come to mind is that everyone in education, they seem to point their fingers out at everybody else instead of pointing their fingers to themselves to figure out what he or her himself or they themselves can actually do to actually further the cause of education. It's like, oh, it's the principals, it's the administrators, it's the behavior specialists, it's the parents, it's the it's everybody else. But we have to learn how to exist fully and wholly within our own truth and see how we can actually be the change that we want to see in the world. And we have to do that. Another thing that I will say is that I think that and I wish I could go back and figure out the name of this concept, but I believe in the concept of education is like a community effort. And a lot of times people only put it on the teachers to actually teach children everything. Like in elementary school, there are teachers who are teaching children how to tie their shoes, how to use the bathroom properly, how to brush their teeth, how to, and these are things that I feel should be taught by parents, but then teachers have to take up the slack. And so the way that I actually view education as an educator, as a mom who actually, I work diligently with my students, like my kids, not my students, my kids, my actual children. They're in the room now doing 3 workbook pages out of a second grade book because they'll be going into second grade on August the 11th. So, they're doing work at home, right? But I believe in this cyclical type of learning where everybody is encircled with the child, not around the child, but with the child. So in this circle, you have the child, you have the parents, you have the maybe grandparents, or any other adult that's in the child's life, like an aunt or uncle, cousin, or what have you. You have the teachers, the principals, the administrators, the lunch lady, the bus driver. You have the community leaders, the community members. Everybody is all in this circle for the child. And when one person fails to do what he or she is supposed to do, what they're designed and designated to do, then that's when education fails the children. It's not about, okay, the teacher has to plan 5 lessons per week, submit it a week beforehand, have it approved or whatever through an admin staff who don't even look at the lesson plans at all. They just want to see the email come in on time that you've actually sent this stuff, sent these lesson plans in. It's like, no, what can we do to make each lesson vibrant for children so they can actually learn and actually want to learn?
Charles, you cooking? I need to find the organ so I can get back you up on that sermon. A couple things that I heard, and then I want to give a shout out to Ask Gigi, Soma, what's up, sis? Luis, Mimi, you guys are welcome to come up onto the stage as well. This is the listening session, so I'm gonna kind of recap and just make sure that I heard what I heard, and then I want to push the mic out because I want to hear as many voices as possible. Issue number one, passing the blame. I think this is a very big issue that I have experienced over the course of my time. Schools as an institution are very liability minded. They will do so much to avoid liability. It's wild work. And so I definitely resonate with you there. But I also find it, as you mentioned, when it comes to the teachers' relationship, not the teacher, the school as a system, their relationship with the parents. We've seen it, especially those of us who are in the field. It tends to be really quite strong during the elementary years, but then it gets weaker and weaker over time. And I think that is a very serious problem, to the degree that there are kids graduating high school after 12 years of professional education experience who are functionally illiterate. I mean, it's really wild work. And so one of the things that I heard, which I really appreciate, and then I'll pass it over to Ash and Soma. Everybody is a homeschool teacher. Shout out to Amunet, because she's really the one who helped me stamp this learning. Is that, as you mentioned, not just the owner of the corner store where our kids get the hot Cheetos and the purple drink for breakfast, but also the parents. They think that school should happen at school, and what happens at home is like non-academic work. The pastors and all of that should all be involved. Whenever you're interacting with a young person, there is a learning opportunity there. But oftentimes we don't take that opportunity. And sometimes when we attempt to, parents and others will say, don't you say nothing to my child. And so there's so much tension between folks who are supposed to be allies. And so one of the things that I hope to do in season 5 is really address that. And so I appreciate you bringing that up. I'll close with this, and then I'll move it over to Ask GG. Joe is in the building. Let's go. Educators have lost their status in the community. I remember a day when the local physician, the local judge, and the local principal were all considered equally important in the community. But nowadays, I think teachers are relegated more like technicians. You know, they are not that different from people who work at a fast food restaurant or at your local grocery store. And if we count up the number of hours that we do, child, we get about the same amount of pay. But then leave that alone. If we had our status in the community as respected professionals, I think a lot of things would change. And so I appreciate you bringing those things up, because they are definitely things that I know are wrong with education as well. Ash, welcome onto the stage. I'm glad that you're here, and I'm curious from your perspective, what's wrong with education? Mike is yours.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I had to come up because the last speaker, I agreed with her so much, but also the fact that nobody has any idea how education happens. Nobody, the community doesn't have an understanding of what we as teachers actually teach, who selects the curriculum, who sets the standards, how minutes dedicated to reading or writing or math. Nobody really understands what teachers do in a day. Nobody understands what the administration does in a day. Nobody knows what the Board of Education is responsible for, what the state is, what the federal government is responsible for. And we have this bashing of education and a real need to want to have a divide. My state or my county should be reading the Bible and the 10 Commandments every day and not your science. I don't want a character with any kind of LGBTQ background. But then this community is like, we want it all, every kind of diverse book and whatever else. And it's really creating these little pockets across our country. And I hear people say all the time, China is ahead of us in education. This place is ahead of us in education. Their students are doing so well. And the one thing that they have in common is that they have a standard across the board. And those parents, and I know this from experience, from having experience teaching in other countries, they have a true understanding of the way education operates, who selects the curriculum, where the standards come from, what's expected of their child, what the teacher expectations are, what the parents should expect from the teachers, and the like, what the teachers should expect from the parents, what the role of the bus drivers are, what the role of the lunch ladies are, the cafeteria. I mean, I think one of the biggest problems in education is the fact that nobody knows how it operates.
Can we cook a little bit, Ash? Because as a colleague, there's a few things that I struggle with here. On the one hand, who's responsible for that? The fact that that message is not going out, is that something that should have been taught, let's say, like in a civics class, where before you graduate high school, you understand how this system works? Is it something that should be required for parents once their kid kind of gets enrolled? There should be some sort of a how this whole thing works and what we actually do, class or something. Like, who holds is it the parents' responsibility? They just need to get in there and actually be, get behind the school wall and come in there with us so they can see what's going on. Like, where do you think that issue of ignorance really resonates from?
I mean, I think that's a great question. It comes from a lot, right? Because
Yeah.
we have a government where, we have no honesty. I don't care
Mm.
what political party you come from. There is not very much honesty anywhere, right? And the goal is to confuse you. And so I guess my question to you is, when you go on a vacation, let's say you're going to Disney World, right? And when you go to Disney World, you're Google searching everything. You're figuring out who's selling you your meal plan, what hotel you're going to go to, what hotel is going to get you to the park the fastest. You're figuring out, do I get this lightning pass or this lightning pass? Do I figure out when do I make this or this or this reservation?
Mhm.
But we don't put the same effort into when we look at a child's school, because we're like, well, it's already taken care of. It's already set up this way. This is my kid's teacher. This is what I need to know. And I'm not saying this is every parent, and I'm not saying this is every teacher or every community member, but we do take a step back because the system is already established, right? And we're paying our taxes and it's there for us. And maybe as a community, we're a little complacent, but when it comes to something like planning a Disney trip, or I don't know, signing up for a little league, right? Or figuring out what our child is going to do after school. We're always investing so much research and time that it still baffles me that parents don't know that they can take part in curriculum selection by going to a school board meeting. So I don't know if I'm answering your question or if
No,
I'm
no.
getting my point across.
No, I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I appreciate it. I want to do one more little deep dive in here with you, and then I'll pass it over to Joe B. I'm gonna let her cook because she had a room recently, and I know she wants to share some key points. So I'll come back around to you. And I see Carla, so let me, I'll slide you in there before I go to Joe B. Ash, here's something that triggered me, if I may. Like, I had to scratch the back of my head a little bit, and I felt a little uncomfortable. So I'm curious if you can expound on this. I have a criticism, if I may, of No Child Left Behind. The idea of this strong standard expectation, I think it was a failed experiment. Maybe the intention was right, or maybe it was just a clever way to turn education into big business by creating space for these huge textbook publishers and curriculum designers to sell things nationally. But and on the other side, I think that diversity in education is not necessarily a bad thing. What happens in a classroom in Los Angeles might not be what needs to happen in a classroom in Kentucky. And so being able to customize what's going on to your actual lived community, I think there's an asset there. And so help me work through my own, limited perspective. From your perspective, when you talk about having these strong standards and issues that come up with what's going on over here versus what's going on over there, like, can you just tell me a little bit more so I can wrap my head around that part?
I guess I could say like more of an example.
Yeah, yeah.
So in one state I taught in, kindergartners came into school knowing, you know, how to write their name, how to, knowing their telephone number, knowing their address,
Mhm.
perhaps already knowing their ABCs. And in another state, you have kindergartners who aren't writing their name yet at all, who have no, you know, idea of the ABCs, and have maybe don't have the tools yet to count or whatever it may be, right? So it starts in that preschool, it starts at home, it starts from then. But what by the time those kids are finished kindergarten, in some states, right, there is a higher standard to get into first grade than there is in other states, right? And why is that? Why are I guess we obviously we leave it to the states. Nobody said, listen, there's a million ways. What's that saying? There's more than one way to get to Chicago. Nobody's saying everybody has to take the same route to get there. But shouldn't we want across the board, especially since people move around so much in the states? We have the freedom to do so, have the comfort to know that if their child goes from one district to the next, kindergarten's going to be full day from here to there, and there's going to be after school programs, and their kids are going to be able to go to Head Start or preschool. No matter where they go, everybody has a fair chance. How they get there, the curriculums they choose, that could be the community. But I guess my point is, you're 100% correct. There's more than a single way to get there. But shouldn't we have those high expectations,
No, I got you now. Thank you for that. A couple things come up and then I'll pass it along. You're absolutely right. I have an elementary school child, and as a professional educator, he came in over ready, right? And I just foolishly assumed that would be what is expected. But what I found is, and he was at the same school from kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and he left in third grade, right? So we had a chance to be basically with the same group of kids for about 3 years. And I'll tell you, there is a compounding problem when those minimum expectations aren't met. And so I totally agree with you on that front, because those kids who didn't know the sequence of numbers, even from 1 to 10, didn't know the sound mapping of sounds to letters, they ended up further and further behind by the second grade, right? So by second grade, there were some kids who he came in with in kindergarten who were still barely at the first grade level, whereas, and I'm not trying to toot my horn, but so I'll say it this way, there are other kids who come in prepared and strong, and then they build and kind of get ahead of the average. And so on that point, I think you're right. There are multiple ways to get to Chicago, but we at least want all of our kids in Chicago before we graduate them or before we promote them. And so having those expectations, I think, is key. I'm definitely writing that down. Okay, let me push over to Carla first to offer greetings as my co-mod here. And then Joe, I appreciate your patience, but I'm going to let you cook for a while. So thanks for your understanding. In terms of the rest of the room, what's up to the folks who are coming? Sojourner is in the building. So glad that you're here. Miss Mimi, Mo, and Mylisha, glad that you're here. Just by way of quick reset, we're doing a listening session. So Educator's House is in between season 4 and season 5. And my intention here is to take a pause for the cause and turn the mic over to the listening lounge. And so those of you who are not necessarily on my trusted panel, but come to the room, listen, and appreciate the high quality conversations that we have, I want to hear from you. What are the essential problems so that Educator's House can start planning what season 5 is going to look like? I want it to be customized to the pain points that we're actually experiencing on the ground. And so my intention here is to invite those of you who are in the listening lounge onto the stage to answer for me 2 essential questions. 1, what are the problems? And then 2, if I was to give you a magic wand, paint for me a vision of what education could look like and should look like. And of course, there's going to be different versions at different stages. And so I hope to get a diversity of views of folks who can help me be solution minded as well, right? So I don't want this to just be a bitch and moan session. Okay, so that's what's going on to all my new listeners, and I'm glad that Fabian joined us up on stage. I'm going to slide you in as soon as I hear from Joe B. But before I pass it to Joe, I want to pass it over to Carla. Carla, greetings, my friend. Welcome to the space. The mic is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Educator's House. I just wanted to take a moment and just give Ash an applause. I really appreciated your share, and I was really, really interested. I see a couple comments in the. Thank you, Hassan. I see a couple comments in the chat. Ashley, if you could let us know what state you're from, what state you're teaching in.
I teach across the country. I'm a virtual educator for the last, almost 7 years now.
Now I'm gonna lean in on that.
So
We could do a whole session right there. But go ahead, Carla.
what came up for me, Ash, and I would love to hear other educators chime in. This whole concept of basic skills, as someone who's had a child go through the educational system, and someone who now coaches and teach and tutors a lot of children, and currently working with 3 and 4 year olds, getting them ready for preschool and going into kindergarten. One of the things that we focus on are the basic skills, the numbers, the letters, the colors, the sounds of letters, their name, the writing skills. Even though I know writing's becoming a thing of the past, but we are still teaching them those basic foundational things. So for me, I am surprised to hear that someone comes into kindergarten and does not know them. But I will say that I do have 4 year olds, 3 and 4 year olds who are at vastly different stages. Some are leaps and bounds ahead of others, but some of that I I put to the home. I put to the parents. I think some of that has to start at home. And I don't know how other educators feel about that, but that's my own 2 cents. The other thing is, I hope Amunet comes up because she spoke about what hat how is education not working, from what perspective? Is it students perspective, teachers, admin, or parents, right? And I think depending on what camp you're in, you see different things. I'm going to throw a few things out there just because they came up for me, again, as someone that deals with people in the system, going through educational systems. I don't see partnership. I don't see partnership between the local officials, the school, the parents, and the teachers. And I think that's an area where things are broken. I don't see educator input at the policy
If
making
you're wondering,
levels. These policies get made by people who may not have the first ounce of experience as an educator. I see issue with teacher retention. How do you keep and reward the good teachers? I see no focus on that. And then, as someone in the bit from the business perspective, if I could give any input into the educational system, it would be to start to teach these children as they come through the school system, whatever age level is appropriate, things that are going to help them in life: leadership skills, public speaking skills, self esteem, understanding how to listen for understanding, conflict resolution. They're left without that, and they get in the business world, and it's like deer in the headlights. I'll land there.
Woo, Ash, did you want to respond to any of that, or are you comfortable with me pushing the mic along?
no, you can go ahead and push the mic, but Carly had some excellent points. Wow.
Thank you, Carla, for laying that out. And there's a lot of resonance with what's already been said. So if you want, you can check out the replay. We are streaming right now live on YouTube, so you can go back and scroll back and listen to some of the parts that we've had earlier. Shout out to everybody who's in the chat. Amunet, Laquita, Annette, Joe, all of you guys are keeping the chat active, and that's a real important part of the culture here at Educators House. So if you haven't done so, the least you could do is greet the chat. Those of you in the listening lounge, just let us know that you're here. We would appreciate it. It's part of our culture here. Also, I will direct your attention up to the top. I have a poll. I have a series of 1-question polls that I think you could really help me weigh in on. So as I'm building out this listening session, your feedback, especially if you know that you can't come up onto the stage, your feedback by hitting those polls over on the YouTube channel will certainly be helpful. Their 1-question polls are pretty easy, so you can scroll through all of the ones that you haven't answered yet and give us that kind of critical feedback that we need in order to push our next season forward. All right, Joe B, I'm going to get my whiskey neat because I have a feeling you about to drop a couple gems or a couple bombs. I'm not sure how you feeling today, Joe, but I know that you've got something important to share. And so let me lean back and let you cook for a bit, and then we'll move on after that. Joe B, mic is yours.
Lean back. Okay, couple points. You got to prepare parents from birth. Hospital early childhood 3-hour little course for mama before she takes the baby home. That's number one. Number two, You have to have passionate teachers, not just good paid teachers, because 35 grand a year sucks. More like 60 grand a year. And number three, you also should add merit pay to teachers who provide outcomes. Now, I'm going to go through a real short list as a result of my room today,
Hmm.
the core facets of K 12 education. I'm just going to go through the highlights. Every one of these topics has a paragraph underneath it to expand. But number one is curriculum and instruction. Number two is student services and support. Number three is educators and staff. Number four, school climate and culture. Number five, assessment and accountability. Number six, funding and resources. Number seven, policy and governance. Number eight, family and community engagement. Number nine, technology and innovation. Two more. No, one more. Number 10, post secondary workforce readiness. And that's it.
Wow. That's a very strong frame. I don't know.
I'm creating one pager, Hussein, and
Yeah.
I'll share it with you. You can use it at your will.
I would love that, and I certainly will use it and leverage it. Make sure you put your name on it because I might steal credit. No, I'm
I
joking.
don't mind. I'm not looking for credit, but every one of those items I listed has some recommendations
Hmm.
and some explanations. So I'll create it and get it to you yet, maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, that would be great. And each of those, as you kind of alluded to, could be a whole deep dive because I think, especially given the diversity of the how do I say, the diversity of the community here at Educators House, there could be a lot of really fruitful pushback when it comes to what the curriculum is and what it looks like. I know Amunette certainly has a strong POV, and she will let you know. Okay, and student services, I think that's critical. The issue of climate and culture is a huge deal for me because I really suffered in a school that I was working at that did not have strong school culture. The issue of funding, I think, is always a big problem, but it needs to be really prioritized, especially at this day and age. But the one that really resonated with me was your number 9, the issue of technology. And I think there is going to be, we are in the midst of what I would say is the biggest paradigm shift, the biggest opportunity for what the future of education can look like because of the advent of all the technology that's around us now. And if we do, we have to get out of the factory model of education. And there's a lot that we can say about that, especially when it comes to the voucher system and school choice and the rise in homeschooling. And so we're seeing, to Ash's point, significant amounts of diversity, which also means we're going to have diversity of quality and diversity of outcomes. And so leading the charge, especially as the schools become smaller and more modular, a homeschool district can be a school of one or a school with just a neighborhood or a few kids in the block. And so our capacity to really push what high quality education looks like from the mountaintops is going to be an important aspect of Educators House. And so I'm glad that you laid that out.
And interestingly enough, I'm sorry, I just
No,
want
no,
to
Mike
add,
is yours.
number 9, technology and innovation came about as a result of COVID, and we forgot that that's what led us there, and it's not going away. It's expanding. I mean, look at AI and ChatGPT. Now we're creating apps to decipher if it's true or false that it's original work of a student or if they're borrowing from another app. So yeah, every one of the points I raised has about, I don't know, 3 sentences, 4 sentences to expand on what they mean, what I view they mean. Now you can add to and you can subtract, and I'll get it to you yet today or tomorrow.
No, that'll be great. I mean, that put something in the chat to resonate with you as well. Classes before birth is a great idea. It's a shame that the community isn't effective or cohesive enough for that not even to be considered. And so I really resonate with that. And clearly, she is an early childhood advocate, and so she knows what she's talking about. Shout out to the folks that are in the room. I've sent out a round of invitations. Special shout out to our resident Bitcoin bot. David Mason, he goes around to all the rooms and tries to convince you to buy some of his Bitcoin or buy into his scam system. And so we're so glad that he's here. That means that all the other rooms on Clubhouse are safe. And so we're going to keep him around as long as possible. Shout out to you, David the bot. For everyone else, you're more than welcome to come up on stage. We're listening to the community, and the next voice that I want to hear is somebody that I highly respect, and I hope that I'm cool enough to join his podcast. And I know we've been talking about it, but we're going to need to make it happen. Fabian, welcome to the space, sir. We have an essential question: what's wrong with education today? And if you have any solutions, the mic is yours.
Wow, great room. I wish y'all were on every day. To be honest, we need more of this. Thank you, Hassan, for having me. I just want to say I am not an educator. I am, however, a parent of two adult children, one of which went to private, one went to public. I've covered schools down here in South Florida for 17 years as a journalist for the Miami Herald.
Hmm.
I have several friends who happen to be teachers. I'm well in tune with some of the struggles that they face, some of the obstacles that they face. And two things come to mind, Hassan. The first one is I am really surprised by the lack of support groups formed by them, not by the Department of Education, not by their school boards, but we have so many tools at our disposals now more than ever, obviously. Technology, social media, yet are we really leveraging technology for us to build bridges? What's going on in Scandinavia? What's going on in the UK? What's going on in Ghana? Why are we not tapping into other educational systems consistently? Why are we not jumping on a Zoom with them and find out, hey, this was a blind spot for me. How do y'all deal with this? Instead, we're waiting on our supervisors and managers to come up with these plans. And as we know, they are so unwilling to make change. We have these frameworks that have been in place, and for whatever reason, we are reluctant to tweak them or vet them even. And my second point, Hassan, is why are we not tapping into what our students think,
Hmm.
right? It's the only demographic that really gets ignored. We sit in these rooms and at these tables, and we make decisions for them based on our experiences, not theirs as much. And I think that is something that we really need to take a hard look at. If you think about it, it's the only demographic that we don't seek their opinion. We we go to restaurants and we leave a review, and we go to the opera and we leave these reviews, but do we even solicit our young people's reviews on what good or bad teaching or leadership is? Their voices count. We have the most brightest generation I believe we've ever had. They are mature enough to answer some questions. We need to invest in their opinion and not continue to keep them out, whether intentional or not. But we need to ask them, hey, you've just finished this class with Mr. or Mrs. So and so. What do you think? What went right? What went wrong?
Sorry, I
How
couldn't help
about that?
myself.
No, it's okay, brother. It's okay. But we continue to ignore them and only consider, oh, they're only children. Well, this is the most, I'd say, the most honest demographic that can be argued, but that's just my opinion. They're going to tell it like how it is, and that might rankle us somehow. But that is something that we really need to tap into is their opinion on teaching as a whole. Thank you so much.
So there's a couple things that come up for me, and then I'm going to pass it to Black so that he and I can cook. First, if you didn't take the chance to respond to the poll, I left it in the chat because I dropped that link off of the marquee. In order to replace it with an opportunity to connect. As I am building out this infrastructure, I want to be able to connect with you. As Fabian mentioned, we should be doing this every day. The business isn't quite there yet, but we're building out the business infrastructure, and part of that is connecting with you in the meantime. So if you want to be part of the newsletter where I'm going to be, I hope that you understand I'm not the spammy type personality here, but I do want to be able to connect and give feedback in a more efficient way. And so if you're interested in joining the Educator's House Substack subscription, honestly, I don't even know what the hell it is. But some dude who I know, like, and trust was like, trust me, you want to get on Substack. So I'm on Substack now. And so if you could find me over there by just dropping your email, I'll be able to communicate with you a lot more regularly. And so I would appreciate your support with that very small ask. There's a couple things that come up to me, Fabian, and then I'm going to push it over to Black to Glory. Shout out to everybody else who's in the room, Earl and others. You know, there's a story. Classic story, and it'll be very brief, but I think it really hits on this idea that came up from Ash earlier, this issue of passing the blame and nobody taking responsibility for their part. You know, there was an important job to be done, which is fixing the broken system that I love so much, the system called education, and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry because it was supposed to be everybody's job, but everybody thought anybody could do it. But nobody realized that everybody wasn't going to do it. So it ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody should have done. So that's a very classic story about the four people who love to just pass the blame, and I appreciate that. The other thing that came up for me, and it really resonated with what Joe B was talking about in terms of merit pay, I think that you're absolutely right, and these students, their feedback about their experience in the class should be considered. You're always going to have a few kids. Let me speak for myself. I've always had a few kids who just didn't like Mr. Thompson. Okay. I was a very assertive and structured teacher, and it just didn't vibe with everybody. And I was okay with that because chemistry was required for graduation. So love me or hate me, we're going to have to get through this together. Right. But if I look at my class as a whole and I gave them an opportunity to give me honest and meaningful feedback, I would welcome the idea that could be a significant factor in my merit pay. So this idea is more important than just that, though, because we've got to compete now with Fortnite and Roblox. We got to compete with TikTok and Instagram. Like we can no longer assume that we have a captive audience and you just gonna get what I have to give you. Like, we really need education to be considered in a marketplace. The attention marketplace is real currency, and we've got to create an environment where kids want to learn. They want to be here, which means it's got to be more relevant. It's got to have a culture and a climate. I'm sure we're going to get into the issue of culture in just a moment. You know, we've got to have the funding and we've got to have the family involved. When we do those things, then it becomes an environment where kids want to be a part of it because they're getting something out of it. And if we can't even compete with a video game like Fortnite or Roblox, then we're doing something wrong. Okay, it's too many of us professional grown folks to have this thing totally backwards. So anyway, whoo, child, let me get off my soapbox. I'm supposed to be listening, y'all. Y'all got me fired up over here. So what I'd like to do is get with Black to Glory. To be honest with you, for everybody, for the good of the group, it was some of the one-on-one time that I had with this guy who I really have come to admire in very short amount of time, who said, hey, bro, maybe it's a time for you to step back and actually ask the people what they want. Actually find out where the pain points are. Don't ask ChatGPT, ask your community. And so here I am, Black to Glory, taking your advice, and I appreciate it. Before I pass you the mic, I want to give a shout out to Earl, Ishman, Lulu, and Katron. This is a pink ticket special. So my friend Carla, my co-mod, is going to send you guys some invitations. We'd love to have you come up because we're engaged in a listening session. And I want to hear your answer to the essential question, what's wrong with education today? And the next up will be Black to Glory. Sir, welcome to the space. Thank you for your time, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. The mic is yours.
Oh, put me on the spot here. What's wrong with education would be the same thing that we talked about before. I think the answer remains the same. I think it was On Liberty by John, was it John? And I wrote it down so I didn't forget. John Stuart Mill. And he criticized kind of how the compulsory education, not that there shouldn't be education, but it shouldn't be taught in a uniform way. And when we go back to, what I always say is culture, and what the person said, I think it was Fabian who just said it. When you go to school and you come home and you say, well, how was it? That's culture. That's us having the time and the capacity to be involved, which means that there is likely a village that is spreading out some of this load, because sitting there and asking that sometimes when you're really tired or trying to get everyone to eat dinner and do everything, and you get them prepared to go to sleep or helping with homework and going, and then you trying to run around and do things yourself, it could be a lot. But in that, as a cultural practice, especially, I think Fabian's also Jamaican, education is real big in Jamaica. It's a part of the culture to make sure that that is there. So the primary educator is the parents. I think, as Carla was saying, that has always been the case. And somehow we've allowed others to start educating our children as the primary educator, and we've replaced ourselves. And so how can we be upset about someone who is educating people and not do it to their benefit? The system was built, I think, on Rockefeller or whatever, who was one of those big oligarch people. And he wants cogs in a machine. That's what he wants. He wants a society of workers. And if you leave it to him, that's what he'll give you. So just the same way we couldn't blame big tech, government, and everybody else for the negative effects of social media, it's the same way we can't blame the education system right now for handing off our duty and responsibility to someone else.
Can we cook a little bit, Black, before I pass it on? Mr. KJ, I value you so much, but David Mason has actually made it onto the stage, and I'm dying to hear what David Mason has to say. But you're going to have to wait a minute, David, because Black is certainly more important in my life than you are. Couple things for me. Black. Number one, you're familiar with the world of technology, and I'm going to ask that as my second question. My first question, as it relates to this issue of parent engagement versus outsourcing this critical role, do you think that is by design? Do you think that is the natural evolution of our culture today? Do you think that it's a matter of neglect on the part of the parents? I don't know if I'm not asking for a historical perspective, but I'm just wondering, how do we end up outsourcing this most important and critical role to a third party? What are your thoughts about how we ended up in this space?
Well, I would say you have to look at it historically.
Okay.
I think I forgot the name of the guy, but he's starts with a JG, I think is the last name. But I think it's the Secret American History, the Secret History of American Education, and he speaks about how we kind of got here. And it is as society became more convenient, and inflation and economy and everything else that goes along with it, school became kind of babysitting, because we just don't have the time to educate. As the economy changed, so did the family structure. And as that changed, so did we lose the economy makes the family smaller and smaller. At the agrarian age, we had extended family. In the industrial age, we had the nuclear family. And then in the information age, we kind of have single parents and this kind of very fragmented family. So how does anyone have the time to educate when they barely have time to take care of themselves? And along with whatever mental health issues or anything else and economic issues that they're already facing. So you could say it's by design, or it may be at least a symptom of a broader issue.
Okay, that's fair to say. That's fair to say. At some point, and I want to move into the second half. We just crossed over the top of the hour, so once I get through the stage that's with me, then perhaps we could do a second round and look at solution consciousness. So,
Hmm.
Carla, Nona, once I get done with Lois, I'll come back around and I'm going to ask you about that magic wand question. So I'll come to you guys in a bit. But for you, Black, the second question that I kind of mentioned first, help me wrap my head around this because it's something that I struggle with, right? When was the last time anybody wrote a letter and licked a stamp, right? We have come a very long way. And so how is it, can you make this part make sense? How is it that it feels like we have less time and more stress when we have all of these pieces of technology which are supposed to like accelerate things on our behalf? How is it that we got all this anxiety and all this stress and feels like we have less time when all these things that are supposed to be around us were supposed to weren't they supposed to give us more time? Like, how do we end up in this trick bag? Any thoughts on that?
That was the promise. However, if we take the most recent thing, AI, people are
Right.
being fired left and right because AI is supposed to make people more productive. So with each piece of technology, it's not that it should have given us more time, but because most people work for certain corporations or things like that, it's saying, oh, now we have this machine, you should be able to do more work.
Mm.
So the time didn't free up. They just said you have a greater capacity, and I still want you to fulfill it. And so while people lose jobs due to technology, they have to occupy that time with re-education into another field. And then the technology for the people who left, now you have a greater capacity and they want you to fill it.
Mm.
So it doesn't give you more time. It just makes less time.
You're absolutely right, actually, because with the dawn of AI, and I have a very close eye on it, one person now can do the job of five people as an anecdote, and they feel it. So I think you got something there. Thanks for breaking that down. Mr. KJ, my dear brother, you are an educator. You are a father of, fast, they're growing too fast on us, my bro. So I know that you have a very unique perspective, and I'm dying to hear what you have to say. David, hold on a second. I'm going to come to you, my bot friend. Mr. KJ, essential question number one. How is this how is this system broken? What's wrong with education today is the question that I'm hoping you can help me answer. If you're available, sir, the mic is yours.
I'm available, but I'm not sure if I'm in a good location. Do I sound okay?
So far, so good. If you break up, I'll mute you, and
Okay.
that way you'll know that we can't hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. All right. So greetings to you, sir. Honoring you in this room. It's amazing to see what you're doing with this platform, and shout out to all those folks who I know on this stage. So I, so you say I'm an educator. That's interesting. Um,
That's a fact.
because I think I know what you mean by that.
Yep.
But I work in tech, so I will, and my background is in electrical and computer engineering. So my thing when I look at just the question because nobody asked me. Um, so when you look when so education, what is that? Is my first question because I am a parent. I'm also a parent of neurodiverse children, which adds a whole nother dynamic to this conversation in terms of what I'm educating them on. So once I learned reading, writing, um, what was education? When I think about my own experience, because I was educated in the '70s through the '90s, and didn't miss any grades. So, what were they teaching me after I got to, let's say, seventh grade? Um, what was I being educated on? I was waiting until I was 18 so that I could, by law, go and do whatever I needed to do. From my perspective, they were educating me on career selection
Mm.
for that whole 4 or 5 year period because we just had the conversation about the various, dynamics of industrial ages and all that kind of stuff, information ages. So they were teaching me how to select a career in short. And I was waiting until I was old enough to go and pursue that because the basic reading, writing, and arithmetic wouldn't allow me to engage in those, those facets of life. And so now talk about writing. I heard Carl writing anymore. So now all I've got is reading and arithmetic. So there's just a lot about what education is truly, and what it is that we're trying to do with a school system that I think are just out of sync right now. So I'll land for now.
You know, that's a great segue. Looks like I lost our last speaker, so we may be looping up to the top of the room. And I see there's a few folks who have come up. Hey guys, I'm talking to you, talking to you, Atlas. If you're available, it's always a no pressure space, but I'm turning the mic over to our community, and I have an intention to listen so that we can plan what's going to be happening in season 5. So to everybody who's been here, sorry for all the resets, but I just want people to know, like, by design, I want you to come up. So Martine, I hope that you can make space. Sojourner, I still want to hear your voice, and others. Let me get your truth about what you think is broken, or if you have a specific experience. But to respond to what you said, Mr. KJ, I actually want to play a small clip of something which resonates with what you said, with what Joe said, with what Carla said, and others. And so I think this may be a value add. So please enjoy this clip.
Your grandchildren will be the last generation to read and write. I know that sounds strange, almost unthinkable. Text is everywhere around us. We use it hundreds of times every single day, and it's woven into the fabric of our daily lives. But today, I'm going to make the case that humanity's relentless pursuit of better ways to convey ideas and preserve knowledge doesn't end with text. I think we're at the dawn of a new era of AI-enabled communication. And I think that future generations will slowly replace text with more intuitive forms of communication, like audio, video, and eventually immersive technologies. And one day, I think we'll look back at reading and writing as historical artifacts, like we do with papyrus scrolls, or hieroglyphs, or cave paintings.
I'm gonna leave it there. This is a bold, bold claim that the idea that we need to read might not be that relevant as technology continues to develop. Now, I don't want to derail the room and turn this into a debate about the fundamentals of reading, but there is something interesting there. I'm not going to play the whole clip, but I'll drop the link if I can, keep my wits about me. I think, especially for those of us who are in early education, we know that reading is an artificial experience. The development of language happens, it doesn't require formal instruction. But this sound to letter mapping, you actually have to teach people to do that, right? You don't naturally learn how to become literate. And so this idea that we can move beyond the typical need to read, I think is a very important and interesting concept. The problem I have with it, of course, is that reading tends to be very closely associated with critical thinking and the capacity to reflect and things like that, right? And so I'm curious how that interface will take place, but perhaps we're moving in a trend that we can't turn back, right? And so I'll just leave that there. Mr. KJ brought up a few things, and then I will, of course, give David the opportunity to speak, but then I'll loop back to the top. This is also an invitation for those of you who've been waiting for the solution consciousness component. If you've got solutions, if you can help me paint a picture of what education could or should look like, I'd like you to come up onto the stage and share in part 2 of our conversation. But when it came to one thing that I think is very interesting and could be an important room for season 5 is what Mr. KJ brought up. How do we get beyond the book? What is the relevant components after we have taught those fundamentals, whatever they may look like, right? So what does career selection look like? What does it mean to be an ethical and responsible citizen? What does it mean to tackle these 4 truths that Nona talked about at the top of our time together? And so there's something very powerful about our role as educators, getting our kids beyond the book. And I think that's something that we can look at as well. Joe mentioned something in the chat, and so I just want to bring everyone's attention to that. If we can organically create a book list, recommended reading as it relates to education, it might not be about academics per se, right, in my finger air quotes, but it may be some essential reading. So maybe there's a parenting book that you are particularly excited about that you wish you could share. Maybe there's a historical text that can help us put things in context, right? Maybe there's a variety of books that I think would be relevant to this list, but perhaps we can drop in some recommended reading lists. I appreciate Amunet for being the first on the dance floor. Love your personality, dear. And if anyone else can drop in, please do so, because there's some powerful things that can come out of this recommended reading list from Educator's House. Okay, so with that said, let's loop back to the top of the stage. Carla, if I could give you a magic wand and you could paint a picture of what education could or should look like. I know that's an extremely broad question and it's layered. And so if you want to go hyper specific and just give me that one wish, or if you want to paint a big picture, there's a variety of ways, as Ash mentioned, to get to Chicago. So I don't know what that's going to look like for you, but my ears are wide open and my pen is full of ink. And so please, what is the solution? What does a well-run education system look like for you? Carla, if you have any thoughts on that, the mic is yours.
Thank you. A couple things came to mind for me. If we could wave the magic wand and we could have certain things in our education system, we would still focus on the learning and prepping the children, as I heard Mr. KJ talk about college and things of that nature. But I would also have a strong focus on the things that I think are missing on the earlier levels. I thought back historically when we were talking about parents doing basic skills at home, like the ABCs and the counting. And no parent would send their child to school without that foundation. But they also taught things like values and discipline, emotional regulation, faith, life skills. Children came in knowing to say please and thank you, to cover your mouth when you cough, don't speak out of turn. They knew what kindness and sharing meant. Those are foundational building blocks that help people become who they are, because you see adults today who don't know any of those things or don't practice them because they probably foundationally don't have them, so they don't even think about it, so they just go off and the kids just do whatever they think is best. And so there would be more teaching in the home. There would be things that before children came into pre-K and kindergarten, there would be certain things that had to be demonstrated that the children knew how to do. And then in the schools, there would be classes that focused on character development, conflict resolution, work ethic, challenging the critical thinking, emotional intelligence. And we would be focused on how to use technology to help us advance so that we are controlling and using it, and it is not controlling and replacing the God-given abilities and skills that he put in us, to make decisions and make smart decisions. We wouldn't be relying on AI and Chat GPT to do it all for us. And the reason why we're talking about children not having to read and write is because they can just speak, hey, Alexa, do this for me. Hey, Alexa, do that for me. Siri, do this. There would be some regulation around how those things assist us, not replace what people need to do. I'll land.
There's a couple of interesting pieces there. And I think you're right. We do not, well, I've seen it happen, but it tends to happen as a what would I call it? A one-off and not a fundamental feature, which is the SEL is what we call it in teacher speak, which is social emotional learning. So basically, the model that I've seen is a school district will hire one person or perhaps a very small team, and they are in charge of the social emotional learning curriculum for the students. And so what they will do is go around to, one classroom or one school at a time and deliver one lesson. Maybe it's a lesson on meditation and deep breathing, right? Maybe it's about some kind of group or focus group thing where kids can talk about what it means to be socially aware or what are healthy relationships. So they have these little lessons, but it's not integrated as a real high priority. And so that one person might come into my one classroom one time in one school year. And so that, I think, is something that they toy with, and I would even call it a virtue signal, but not a real essential part of what our kids need in order to navigate this complex world that we live in. So I think that was a powerful piece. And then in terms of the AI, there was something that I ran into recently, and then I'm going to pass it over to you, Nona. Actually, before we get to you, Nona, if you don't mind, I have some new voices, so I'm going to get those new voices in, and then we'll come back for round two. About Alexa, you mentioned like, hey, Alexa. And these days, I don't know if you guys have these pieces of technology in your home. I don't, so I haven't had the experience. But she mentioned how Alexa is now connected with artificial intelligence and large language models. And so what Alexa is starting to do, especially if you have young children in your home, is that it's asking your kids follow-up questions and then collecting data about them and on them when it comes to their response. And so when the child would say, hey, Alexa, what's the weather going to be today? And then Alexa might follow up with, how are you feeling today? And then jump into a whole conversation. And so a lot of parents are very concerned about how AI is now integrated into these tools. So thank you for that share as well. Okay, I'm going to go down to the bottom of my stage, and then I'll loop back around. Nona, I hope you're available, because I did want to follow up with you about those 4 truths, but I want to honor the new voices on stage.
I'm still available.
Okay, perfect.
So.
I'll come back to you in a bit. And shout out to everybody. I see Dr. Vaughn. I know, like, and trust you. So if you have anything to add to this conversation, I'd love to hear your voice. Becoming Dr. Adwa, we know that you're very busy right now. But if you have a moment, you're more than welcome to join us up here as well as the others, Charmaine, Folk, Blake, Mr. Adam, and others. You guys are all welcome here. Pink ticket holders, I want to hold a special space on our stage for you guys. We got a special VIP section over there for all the pink ticket holders. First drinks on me. So if you want to come up onto the stage and add to our essential questions, I would love to have you. With that being said, Mr. Rashid has joined us onto the stage, and I appreciate you being here. We're in the middle of 2 questions, and so you could take it whichever direction you want. Question number 1 was, what are the problems that you see with the education system today? Because the Educator's House is on a mission to solve those problems, and we believe the only way to solve them is together. And then the second question is, what are the solutions? If I was to give you a magic wand and allow you to paint the picture of what the education system could or should look like, especially as we move into the future, what would that be? So you can answer either or both, or listen, the mic is yours. Saqib Rashid. I know sometimes these mics be a little bit sticky. All right, we're gonna come back to you, sir. And I'm going to mosey on down to Atlas, my friend Atlas. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world today. I think you've heard my 2 essential questions, and you've kind of seen where we're going in this room, so I won't overdo it. I'll just pass the mic directly to you.
I actually have only heard one of the questions, something about education and why is it broken. What was the second one?
Solutions. If I could give you a magic wand and you could make education whatever you wanted to, what would that look like?
You sure you want to give me the magic wand?
The magic wand is yours, and you got 3 wishes. And let me say this before you take the mic. I know that you've got a PhD, right? I know that you have a very unique experience. And so if I could give you, considering, as you mentioned in the chat, your neurodivergence, your experience in real estate, your expertise as a businessman, like, you actually might be the most qualified to tell us what this whole thing should look like. So with that, I yield the mic.
Okay. Okay. Just remember, he said that, I didn't. Okay. But I'm not going to disagree with him either. So what it comes down to is, I don't think we don't have an education system. We have a schooling system. We have a train.
Can we rewind?
Hello.
What? Uh-oh.
DJ Remix. All right. Sorry about that, sir. We have decorum here, Amunet. Sir, the mic is yours.
Sorry, I know I'm in a room full of teachers. I should have prefaced that trigger warning or something. But yeah, no, we don't have an education system. We have a schooling system. We have an indoctrination system.
Mm.
It trains us to think a very specific way. It trains us to see things a very specific way. And the problem is only that way. It doesn't prepare us to actually, okay, so when I, so it doesn't prepare us to draw out of, which if you look at the original root word Italian or root word of education, we'd have to be able to draw something out, draw our own conclusions.
There it
We
is.
don't understand inductive nor deductive reasoning at all, yet it's a life skill. Ah, so, and we're wondering, how come I don't know what to do? Uh, these are all things that are necessary in order for us to function well. In fact, we punish what are actual survival skills. We punish by saying things like, you got to get it right 100%.
Mm.
You got to get it right the first time. You got to get it right without help. When, if you ask me, in life, have you ever gotten it right first time or 100%? We vilify failure, and that's a problem. Scientists get this right though, 'cause that life is an experiment. In fact, the answer is no until proven yes. This is one of the lessons from science that I take into business. The answer is no. No, you can't do that business because until you learn to do it a certain way, and every hypothesis prove it that you can do it. But we don't approach it that way. We the label failure is as if it's a bad thing. Yet the very thing that specifically men need more of is more failure experiences. Artists get this right, which is why art actually is way more educational. So is music, by the way, and sports, because we learn that doesn't mean end at all. In fact, because you have learned how to fail and stand up again and keep going, that you succeed. How else did you learn to walk? But yet somehow organic chemistry, I'm supposed to get it in 12 weeks. It's the first time I've ever been exposed to that confusing course. I almost cursed right there because I don't know why chemistry was like the one thing I could not get down. Anyway, but I got to get it right. I got to get it right the first time. And don't you dare ask for help because that's called cheating. But yet to get through life, isn't that what we're doing right now?
Mm.
Not, we didn't get it right the first time. We're asking each other for help. We are literally taking, hey, I failed here, I failed here, don't do it this way. And here's the funniest thought. Okay, we vilify failure. We don't want to talk about it and get it right, how we didn't get the outcome we originally set out for. Yet do you realize that I could right now, if I wanted to, you could do this, that I tried to do X, and you can fill it in. I don't care. Learn to swim. Tried to dig for gold. I don't really care what you tried to do. Start a school. Here's 100 ways I tried and failed. Read my book so you don't have to. And do you know people would buy that because we are so afraid to experiment. We're so afraid to experience failure, the very thing that teaches us how to learn, course corrections, etc. We don't want that feedback. That we will do anything we can. We'll spend any amount of resource to avoid it.
Mm.
But yet it's the very thing we should be to do. That's where my best lessons have come from. And I've said this before, especially on Clubhouse. There was a real estate transaction where I lost like $1.4 million. That was not a good day, by the way. Just want to put that out there. Um, but what I learned from that, and because this is how and to understand these types of things. I was, answering calls from investors, letting them know what happened, standing in it, saying, "Hey, here's what happened." Is saying, "Great, you ain't gonna like this," and I kid you not, the very first investor I called, very first one, he said, and it's because it stuck with me. He said, "Hey, just so you know, I appreciate you calling, and I give you money again." Now, mind you, I didn't ask. I am not feeling at this moment, but when he said that, I was like, Huh? What do you mean exactly? I'm like, did you not hear what I just said?
Mm.
He said, I will give you money again. I'm like, okay, can you tell me why? He's like, because now you're a safer bet. You will make other mistakes, but you'll never make those. And I'm like, he's right. I'll make mistakes, but I'll never make those. I am now tested. I am now proven. All of these things. So here's what I'm going to say. Why not let kids experiment? Because here's one of the things I've learned with my children. I can take whatever they're interested in and have them learn math or English or whatever subject they need.
Hello?
But I can do it by leveraging what they're interested in. And because guess what? Math is money. Math and money are the same. For those of you who didn't like math, you probably don't, money. You see how that works? They go together. Math and the same. And communication is yes, English. And some of us are better orators than writers. It is what it is. But where the opportunity for the other skill sets that actually matter, like communication and imagination,
Mm.
inside of a school system, you can't really grade that. And at the end of the day, like I said, we don't give ourselves the opportunity to draw anything out of anything. We're told this is what it's supposed to be, keyword being supposed. This is what it's supposed to look like. And if it looks anything different, you're a failure. And to me, that's a problem.
So there's a couple things that you mentioned. First of all, hello, as my friend Amunette would say.
Oh yeah.
But
I definitely want to respond to that, but
all right,
I don't know if you're going to come back to me or go to other people.
now
But
I'm going to come to you. I want to do a little bit of special time with Amunette, and I'll be honest with you, Nona, she can cook, so so go get another drink from the bar. I'll give you one of my free drink tickets. A couple things that you said, and then I'll pass it right along. And I don't want to take too much of your time, so I'll try to minimize my space here. But this idea that you got to get it right, there's only one right answer, and then you got to do it by yourself. That's the only piece that I would add is this culture that there's only one right answer. But everything else I totally resonate with. I took down some notes as it relates to what could it look like, emphasizing communication, imagination, and having children lead with their interests. So I'll leave it there, and I'll pass it over to Amunette. Now, he said a lot, Amunette, so you don't need to recap, but I hope that you can push this conversation a little bit more forward. If I was to give you this magic wand and you could create education however you imagine it, what would that look like? And if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about your book. The thing that I appreciate about Amunette is that she's not only a professional in the space, but she's a practitioner. She's got some solutions. There's a children's book line that she has out on the marketplace right now. And if anyone is interested or you have a young person in your life or you want to give a good gift to somebody who may have children in their life, I definitely want you to speak to that as well, Amunette. So with that being said, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Hussein. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Before I do share, Atlas, my friend, you have learned well. Yes, that is
The
what I
young
was going
Padawan,
to
huh?
start off with.
Our young Jedi
Yes,
Padawan is figuring it out.
that's exactly what I was going to start off with. What exactly is education? And this is why I wrote what I wrote initially when I first stepped into this beautiful space. Education is drawing out indoctrination, or schooling as we currently know it,
It's pouring
pours in.
Good point.
All right. And so that reveals why the problems within modern education feel cyclical and unresolvable. There's always issues that we need to address because we are only ever addressing the symptoms and not the root. So I'm going to give you my list of what we need to think about. Number one, the false view of the child. Child is seen as an empty vessel to be filled with knowledge. The child is born whole, with an inner guide and divine potential that needs unfolding from within. Two, heavily control-based environment. Classrooms are often rigid, teacher-led and standardized. You got to do what the learning objective says you got to do. right? No, prepared environment, as I quoted myself, follow the child, observe without judgment, prepare the environment, rinse and repeat. So many of the things that Atlas brought up is exactly where I'm at. 3, uniform standards for souls that are unique and divine. We have fixed age-based curriculums and standardized testings that actually override the individual's needs. We've got children on IEPs because they're not sitting. They're not sitting for 9 hours. They're not paying attention. Were they meant to do that? Is that normal? Okay. 4, external reward and punishment. Where is the intrinsic motivation? How is it being nurtured through meaningful work and inner satisfaction? 5, fragmented knowledge. Subjects are taught in isolation, but when you step outside, where do we see in life that we only deal with English when it's English time? That we only deal with math when it's math time? No, these things are holistic in nature. Let's think about making a meal. How much maths, English, science is involved in that? All encompassing. 6, teachers as authority instead of guides. Teachers, why are they stressed? Because they're pressured to perform, they're pressured to direct and control outcomes. In fact, in certain instances, they get penalized if the outcome isn't as desired. Nah, the adult is supposed to be a humble observer and facilitator. 7, policy driven by politics, not children. Don't need to move on with that. I can just skip that. We all know what that's about. 8, parents are disconnected from the child's natural development. That's where your good Annette comes in. That's where your good Anthea Davidson, Jara Aminette comes in. Hello. Number 9. Hello. Number 9. Students are conditioned to obey and not to think. Think it's not illegal yet. Success is measured by compliance and correct answers, as Atlas pointed out, Wyatt. Education is the cultivation of independence, critical thinking, and moral responsibility. Number 10. There's no room for, spiritual development. Mainstream schooling ignores the emotional and existential dimensional growth. And I'll leave it at that. So, as it pertains to my children's book series, my I Know I Can book series, I've posted the link in the chat for all my books. It is based in Montessori practical life activities, things that adults take for granted, things that we can do with our eyes closed, make our bed, tie our laces, make a meal, I don't know, fix something in the home. These are what my children's books are focused on. The main characters are Cressy and Carlia, and I am about to publish book 11. As I said in my previous room, I'm also offering a service, so stay tuned for that. I've also posted 2 services because you mentioned early reading. I have a Ready Steady Read course, and the Ready element is for the early reader. It is based in I've literally shaped it so that it reflects Montessori practices and values. So very interesting. I think there is one testimonial on there. And secondly, someone mentioned handwriting. The value of cursive handwriting. Please do not underestimate that. Please don't. So there is Script Science, a course that I developed. Again, very engaging, has a wealth of resources to it. And yeah, that's it from me. I will shout out my latest book series. This is when Carlia and Kwesi are older and they go to Sierra Leone and they climb up a tree and oh my God, they can't get down. And they learn certain life lessons, certain things about their innate principles, innate quote unquote powers. That is called Carlia and the Pout Neteru, Kwesi and the Pout Neteru. And I'm going to throw the mic back to you, Hussein. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Your presence inspires an important announcement for me. Season 5 of Educator's House is going to be far more intentional about partnering with the members of the Educator's House. I believe as a core value, What we do here is co-creation. I'm not here as a podcast and everybody's in the listening lounge. Some rooms do that. I believe the only way that we're going to solve these problems is together. And so, with that being said, I'm looking to partner with you guys. If you have a product or a service, just like Aminette mentioned, that is good for this group, we need to get into business, right? I believe that this is a hub where we can let members of our community know what's available within our own community. And so if that's you and you've got a product or a service, a business idea, or something that's relevant to this group, holler at me, especially during this intersession, so that we can figure out how to get your product or service up on the marquee. With that being said, I know that Annette, you know how much I love you, but Nona has she's brimming at the edge of her seat to lean in, and I want to make sure that I offer her some space because I've been promising this mic to her for about 4 or 5 people now. So with that being said, shout out to you, Kamal, as well. David Mason, you're still up here on the stage, and I appreciate it. Your homeboy, Coach David Lucas, has made it, and of course, he wants to sell us some stuff as well. So with all that being said, Nona, I'd love to pass you the mic.
Okay, so when it's interesting when Atlas was talking about how we criminalize failure. Um, 2 things I thought of. One was Mr. Rogers. Um, when he was doing his TV show, there was some episode where he was trying to get something right, and he was in the pre-filming, and he just kept making mistakes, kept making mistakes, kept making mistakes. And his producer was like, "Oh, we'll just cut those other segments out, and when we air the show, um, the kids will just see you, do whatever it is that you were doing."
Hmm.
And he said no. He was like, "No, I want them to actually see me um make the mistakes in the process of." I don't know if he was building something or whatever he was doing, but the point was that he actually wanted them to air everything and actually have the kids see him make mistakes. Because one, he wanted to say, first of all, adults aren't perfect. We make mistakes too. And secondly, it's okay to make mistakes. Like, you make mistakes, you learn from it, you do it again, and eventually number one, you do eventually get it right. But number two, all of those life lessons that you learn, you wouldn't have learned them
Without the
yeah,
mistakes.
without the mistake. So that's what I thought about. And then the second thing I thought about um, was it is often our fear of failure on a global level that leads to the erasure of history. Because what we're trying to do with the erasure of history is erase the mistakes and the sins of the past. When in actuality, we should say, no, this is where we got it wrong. And here's how we change stuff to not get it wrong again. Um, Instead of, making the same mistakes over and over again. And so I thought about those 2 things. When we and I only say mistake, Atlas, um in terms of historical mistakes like slavery. We got it wrong. That was just not a good thing. But because we're so afraid of failure and learning from failure and being seen as a failure, and I don't want to hurt people's feelings by talking about the crap they did wrong. That's part of the issue with the erasure of history.
Yeah. And then we're
But
doomed to repeat it. If I
and
was to
then we're
give
gonna
you the
repeat it
magic
because
wand, let me give you a
right.
magic wand. If you could make education whatever you wanted it to be, paint a picture
Okay,
for
so
me.
I'm sorry.
I said if I could give you a magic wand and you could make education whatever you wanted it to be, could you paint that picture? What would the ideal education
Okay,
system
so the
look like?
solution,
Yeah.
for I think the solution, and I don't know if this is a magic wand because it's work. Um, And so I don't think it's necessarily a magic wand. But the first solution for me is the educator as the activist. Um, we have to fight for our schools. We have to fight for our libraries. We have to fight for our museums. If we don't uh, take the if we don't take uh, the reins in saying no, you're not gonna take away the facts. We're not gonna let you take books out of our libraries. We're not gonna let you take artifacts out of our museums.
Well, let me
We're
let me
not
push you.
gonna.
No, no, let me push you. Let me push you. You're telling me what you don't want. Tell me what you do want. If you could make it what you want it to be, what would that look like?
What the ideal for me is educators as truth tellers, that we maintain the truth, we maintain the factual truths, and we maintain environments where people's personal truths are respected.
Mm.
That we don't let the system disappear. We don't let the system disappear facts, and we don't let the system disappear people.
In our culture,
And I
there
and I,
was a role called the griot or the griot, depending on where you're from.
yeah, the griot, yes,
The storytellers, the truth tellers
the
that you're talking
storyteller, the
about.
truth tellers, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that educators need to be the frontline truth tellers. That there should not be we should we I yeah, we should be the griots of our society. We should
Mm.
be the truth tellers. We should not let the facts get lost. But I also think in a perfect world, I would love to see teachers, educators, principals, cafeteria workers be able to bring their whole selves into the classroom,
Mm.
because oftentimes existence is resistance. And I don't think that an educator should feel like I'm not gonna bring my whole identity into the classroom.
Mm.
Um,
Now that's tricky
so,
business. That's tricky business, Miss Nona. That's
but you said in an ideal world,
You're
what would
right.
I want to see?
You're
I
right.
would
You're
want
right.
to see
I got you.
I would want to see educators bring their whole self into a classroom. And
Okay.
I don't mean bring your whole self into the classroom to tell the kids this is what you should believe, or this is how you should be, or this is how you should
Think.
but
Yeah.
or this is how you should think. But you should bring your whole self into the classroom to allow them to bring their whole self into the classroom.
I feel you.
um
I feel
you
you.
know
Yeah. No, you're making a lot
so
of
that
sense. I've taken
so
I've
that's what
taken
I
some
would say.
notes. No, I appreciate you, dear.
um
Let me move the mic along if you don't mind, because there's something. Oh, Carla, you're the one I wanted to talk to. She is painting a picture. This idea of the griots as truth tellers, right? This idea of making room for these four types of truth, right? There's the factual truth, the personal truth, the social truth, and the reconciliatory truth. You have said this to me on multiple occasions, Carla, and it's coming up for me here, right? This whole person coming into the classroom, and not just, as Aminette mentioned, right? Not just the teacher as authority, right? Carla, that sounds like messy work. You have mentioned it time and time again, and I wonder if you have anything to say to that before I move the mic over to Joe B.
Thanks, Hassan. Refresh my memory because I'm not sure um, I remember what I said to you that's resonating with you right
When I
now.
as I'm building the educator's house as a business, you have given me permission that it's okay to start messy, that it's okay to be transparent, that everything out of educator's house doesn't have to be so polished, right? I can open up this room without no strong agenda and let the community guide the conversation. That's messy work because I don't know what the outcome is going to be.
Okay, thank you for that. I think, yes, I think when you're leading people into a new paradigm, right, you have to allow room for growth. So we know how we've learned something, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the person alongside us will learn it the same exact way. So when you bring your whole self to the situation, you are allowing yourself to pull from various tools and strengths, and you're also not afraid of that person opening up another avenue by which you could go down and explore to help them understand. One brief example I give, and I think I've spoken on it here before, it was a young man that came into summer school, and the teacher, I was the teacher's assistant, and the teacher looked at me after a few days and said, he's not going to make it. He's just here to play. He's not about anything. And then a week later, the teacher was like, just ignore him
Mm.
because he was playing out in class and having fun. And when I went and I spoke to him, I started to tap into who he was. And I realized that, yes, he could do the work. He couldn't do it the way everyone else could do it. He struggled with math, so he thought. And I started to teach him math through music because he loved music. We started talking about rhythm and how rhythm was nothing more than fractions, and how if we double the time, what does that mean? And he started to come around. The teacher was flabbergasted. But that's an example of how you bring your whole self to a situation and you're not afraid of messy. You use messy to create something beautiful.
Mm. I appreciate that. Annette, if you're available, I want to give you your first strike at the mic, and then me and Joe are going to cook a little bit.
So Lasan, I might have to leave. So can I, make my final point and land my plane?
Sure, go ahead and land your plane, dear.
Okay, so just to kind of piggyback off Carla, what I mean by bringing your whole self into the situation, in order to allow the kids in your presence to bring their whole self and their whole life experience to the to the forefront,
Mm.
and to actually learn because you're in front of a real person. So I'll do two quick stories and then I'll leave it at that.
Give
The
me
first
one. Give
story
me
is,
one in the interest of time.
okay, so I was tour guiding at the MLK, and I was talking about Dr. King, and I was talking about the American Civil Rights Movement. And the family that I was tour guiding happened to be not African American. They happened to be white. So the little boy l- was hearing the story of Dr. King, looking at the statue, looking back at me, back at the statue, and looking back at me. And then the little boy said, and I talked a little about myself too.
Mm-hmm.
And then the little boy said to me, I just feel that it was so wrong that people who look like you were treated that way just because of the color of their skin. And I talked to the little boy about, oh yeah, and and we can make changes and we can learn from each other, blah blah blah. And when we were leaving, the mother says to me, this is why I wanted a black tour guide,
Mm.
right? Because I wanted my son to make a connection between who you were as a person and what your lived life experience was and what he was learning from an academic level,
Mm.
making that connection, that it's not just about something he was reading in a book or a statue he was looking at, but he was also looking at a real life person, and he was able to make those connections. So that's what I mean about, and it doesn't just have to be race. It could be gender. It could be class. It could be whatever. It could be spirituality. Like Joe was saying, but when we bring our whole selves to the table, we bring out the educational experience and we bring out the education experience of the people that we're around. So that's what I mean about bringing our whole self and our whole life experience to the table so that it makes what's in the book, real and applicable
It comes to
to
life.
it comes to life. That's what
Yeah.
that's what I mean about bringing your whole self to the table. I don't mean indoctrinating people or telling them how to think or how to feel, but it is connecting these thematics with real people and real lived experience and the people that we're engaging with every day. That's what I mean by bringing
I
your whole
got
self
you.
to the table.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Nona Florence is one of the OGs around here, and so I know you're heading out, and so I wanted to break a little bit of protocol and give you a chance to share. Joe, thank you for your patience. Let's cook a little bit, and for those who are on the stage with me, we're gonna march our way towards the landing of this plane. Solutions. Joe, you're deep in this education space, but you've also got a unique experience, from your point of view. If I could give you that magic wand, and maybe this is an opportunity to talk about the website that you've been curating as well, what would an ideal state look like for education today?
Well, thank you, sir. I'm going to sound like a socialist, but we can't mess around
You are
anymore.
not no socialist.
I
But
am
go
not,
ahead.
but I'm going to sound like it. We need CPR. And so I got 6, maybe 7 points, short points. We need to require, I don't know how, I don't care, parent ed on early childhood development. We need to require it somehow. It's so critical. Teachers need to take the ASVAB, and somehow we need to focus in on whether they're passionate or not. If they're just there for the money, forget about it. We need to provide all schools should be physically inviting. Use fun, colorful books to intrigue young readers because it's not about money. Definitely not when it ranges 10 to 30 grand a student. We need to seriously incorporate parent engagement involvement groups. And lastly, we need to involve and require life skills, banking, cooking. That's critical. Okay, that's all I got.
This is good stuff. Black, I know that Annette just stepped down. So first of all, shout out to Annette. I know we never heard her voice on today's conference, but she is absolutely amazing. She's been a featured speaker very recently. And so I would and she is a early childhood specialist. So if you have any young people in your immediate family and you need some consultation, you definitely want to book an hour with her because she's got a powerful perspective and can really give you some good tools. Black to Glory, if I think about some of the conversations that we've had, I'm gonna tell you, Joe B is giving the playbook over here. This required parent education, that sounds like a product line to me. Straight out of Educator's House. I think that's brilliant. Black to Glory, ideal state, final thoughts. The mic is yours.
Ideal states. And in the magic wand. I remember the magic wand question. I can answer that one. You repeat the one for the final state.
Just final thoughts. We're landing our plane, so whatever you want to share as we close. Yep.
I mean, everything what everyone is saying is fine, but I think there's a concept here. I don't have time to pull up the name of it, but it's where we are trying to use the problem to solve the problem.
Yeah.
So, for example, quickly, if you have shoes on, you have cushion on your feet, and then your feet go flat over time. So we say we're going to add more cushion or add ankle support. But the reason your feet went flat and you need ankle support is because you're wearing shoes in the first place. So if we look at the education system, kind of it's the same thing. We're trying to fix something that it's broken, or it's broken from our standpoint, because the education is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It was designed by Rockefeller and it's doing exactly what it's designed to do. So the more we try to fix something, you're trying to fix your flat-footedness by improving the shoe, which is education, or the schooling system, more accurately, as Atlas put. So it's the taking your foot out of the shoe and strengthening your foot to get back to its strength in the education of the children by doing something not in the same vein, because it won't work if we keep attacking the system when it's not going to work. You have to do something different. So that'll be my final thought.
No, it is part of my story, actually, Black, because that's why I left the school system. I kept trying to improve the very system I was a part of, and they wasn't having it. If I tried to make too much sense of it, and I've seen it time and time again, teachers do not get invited back when they try to push against the status quo. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. But that's where, and I'll pass it to David Mason. Matter of fact, let me land my mic. David Mason. If you are available, sir, you could do whatever you want with this mic. Sell Bitcoin or whatever, sir. David Mason, the mic is yours. David Mason going once. I know he's a robot, but I just want to feed his algorithm a little bit. David Mason going twice. David Mason, I'm not going to block you from the room because you're so entertaining, but I am going to tuck you right on down to the audience. Thank you for your time on the stage. Kamal Shakur has been terribly patient. He has joined us here on stage, and I wonder if you have anything to share. Kamal Shakur, the mic is yours.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Hussein. Thank everybody else. I have been abused in the school system, and I just would like people to know that people who are blind, visually impaired, what have you, are human as well. We may have our flaws. I certainly know I do. But abuse is not necessary. And if I had that magic wand, as you were saying earlier, well, I'll just redo my life half the time. Thank you.
I appreciate you for coming up, and I appreciate your vulnerability and sharing. You know, I did a conference on the title of it was, Does DEI Have a Blind Spot? And I was very critical of the DEI movement because I don't think they center differently abled people. And in particular, our feature speaker was a blind business owner and technologist, Tiffany Martin, and she really shed some light, to use a pun, on the situation. And I think you're absolutely spot on with that. And I'm glad that you shared that, and I hope to hear more from you as we launch into season 5. Which brings us to my friend Atlas. Atlas, let me do this if you don't mind, since we're about to land this plane. Guys, I'm going to pull down. So I want to create a sense of urgency is what I've learned this is. I'm pulling down the link to the Substack. So if you haven't joined my community so that we can connect off the app, now is going to be your chance to do it. So while Atlas is speaking, it will be gone for the rest of the conference. So if you thought about it or you haven't been reminded, I want to connect with you. Please click on that link, drop an email so that you can understand how important this movement is. I am now on page 7 of my notes. There's a lot to process, and I'm going to drop this all into my favorite large language model, synthesize these ideas, and come up with a cogent plan for what season 5 is going to look like. And I certainly would appreciate your involvement. So please click on that link while you have the opportunity, because it's going away. It's going away. It's going away. Atlas, my man. As we land this plane, if you could think about, well, you kind of gave us a magic wand, so I'll be a little bit more broad here, and I wonder what your final thoughts would be as we are in intersession and getting ready for season 5. What advice do you have? What final thoughts do you want to offer as I reflect on this transition period? Sir, the stage is open and the mic is yours.
First, Black to Glory. I'm so proud. Did you hear? Did you hear him? Oh my God. It's CTAs and everything with scarcity and urgency. He's learning so, he's growing up so fast. I love it. Yeah. Good job, Hussein. You have no idea how proud I am right now. I'm just excited. Okay. So I make no secret about this one.
Let me say
Teachers
this
don't
right
get
quick, Atlas, if you don't mind. I'm blushing.
Yeah, go.
If I didn't have so much melanin, you could totally see me blushing right now. Okay, I yield back.
Okay. So here's what I say. Teachers don't get compensated enough. Period. For the relative to the value you create. You want to know what I would do? What I would do is that it would obviously burn up the system and create it so that teachers can get paid according to the value they create. Because good teachers should make more money than bad teachers. Bad teachers would weed themselves out. The teachers who want to be there would be there and would be compensated for it. Similar to the way eBay works, right? You got a review system. You keep your review scores up. Hey, guess what? We have a shot at that. I don't know, but all I know is this. When I think about, because sometimes when I don't want people to know what I do, I say I'm a teacher. And I know that how that sounds right now, but but that's what I do because I feel like I do. I teach, and when they ask, "What do you teach?" I teach math, and they tend to let it go, which is great for me. But I'm probably well compensated more than the average math teacher, and it's because I'm teaching math in such a way that it is useful for that particular individual. One of the things that I still don't understand is why do I have to learn calculus? Yes, I can do it. Why do I have to learn chaos theory, differential equations, and a whole bunch of other math that I don't need in my everyday life, and nor have I used in a long, long, long time? I think there's a lot of permission that we are still asking for. We are asking for permission in a way that we don't need to. We have our own levels of genius inside each one of us, and we were waiting for someone to come by and say, "Now I grant you the opportunity to be great. Here's a certificate, and now you are official." I can't stand that, but I think we could change that. And I think teachers, because content, think about it, content creators get paid, especially those of us that are educational. We're getting paid relative to the value we create.
Right.
And so it can be done. We just don't do it.
I'm going to offer this because I have my own thoughts, but Joe has mentioned it and others. So this idea of teacher pay combined with, as she mentioned, filter for fit, I think is a really powerful combination. And as I think it was Black to Glory, but maybe someone else, a proper review system, especially from the clients themselves. I think there's something very powerful there when we think about this issue. If that were the case, and let me layer in this issue of artificial intelligence, I think
Wait. Before you ask the question, some of us don't know what filter for fit is.
Not
I don't know
every
what that is.
teacher needs to be in the classroom. That's what I mean. There are a lot of people who teach who should not be teaching our kids. Annette isn't here, but trust and believe there's going to be a room coming up when where we deal with the issue of violence in the schools. And so I don't want to go too deep into it, but that's what I mean.
Okay.
Figuring out maybe through the ASVAB that she mentioned, but figuring out if this person is in it as a calling or if they're in it as a paycheck. And it happens for the paycheck a lot. Even though, anyway, again, I'm going to save that for another room.
What I was going to say, because here's what I was hoping it was. When you go to like a psychologist office that has, say, 5, 10, 15, 20 therapists there, before they quote unquote, they don't necessarily, you don't like always get to choose your therapist, you know what I'm saying? They like, okay, cool, tell us what's going on, and then we'll try to match you, especially with online services, BetterHelp, your Talkspaces, etc. And they do an assessment of me, the person, and then you've got, hey, here are the therapists we think, relative to what you are saying, here are the therapists that we think would be, a fit for you.
Yeah,
I
no.
was hoping that that's what you were saying.
Well, listen to where I'm going, and you might see resonance there. So considering as my fourth factor, right, the issue of pay, the issue of filter, and then the review system, add as a fourth factor the fact that the technology is changing. Whatever is going to happen, let me say in the next generation, right, for the kids that haven't been born yet, the future of education is going to look drastically different. Like it or not, it's going to change. It's either going to collapse or it's going to rise to the occasion. And technology is going to be a big part of that, which means, as we've seen trending over time, more and more teachers are going to be leaving the field. They might pivot into a education adjacent, like what I'm doing here with Educator's House, or they may leave the field altogether. So we're going to have, as was mentioned in the chat, right now we're in the chaos of the transition. We've got these substitute teachers, but as we move forward, we're going to have fewer teachers. And I think it was somebody else who mentioned the idea that fewer teachers, but with the technology, that means that they're just going to do more work. So with all of that being said, fewer teachers means that those teachers have the opportunity to be highly skilled artisans again, right? Make education great again, if I can coin a phrase. And so I think that's where we start to see the power of the fit that you're talking about. And so I'm looking forward to what it is, and I want Educator's House to be a part of it. I want to land this plane, but if you guys don't mind, I want to land this plane focused on somebody who has been in the listening lounge from the beginning of this conference. Her name, I believe, is pronounced Martine, and she is somebody who, for me, is an ideal member of the Educator's House community. And so to you, as I close, I want to say, number one, thank you for being here. Time, some say, is our most precious asset, and you have spent virtually the entire time with us from the beginning of the room to the end. You have been active in the chat, and that is a level of engagement that I really do value. The quality of your contributions cannot go understated, because as the moderator, when you lean in on the chat, it gives me information. Should I go deeper or should I move the mic along? And so I want to tell you specifically, and people like you, this is what Educator's House is all about. It is a co-creative space where we're tackling the big issues in education, but we're doing it from a bottom-up approach. Gone are, in my mind, gone are the days of having some person from the tower coming down and delivering their great best practices for the classroom. No. The expertise is down here on the ground level, where we're the ones doing the work, the student-facing people, the parents, the advocates, who are really pushing what the future of education can look like. And I believe that's the only way to do that is to do it together. And so I appreciate your presence. And for everybody else, y'all cool. But for this particular ideal candidate, it is why I exist. You are why I exist. And so I yield to you with deep gratitude. With that being said, I will land this plane in.
May I?
Mike is
May
yours.
I say one thing? Thank you. I just wanted to say to everyone who showed up for season 4, we thank you. It wouldn't be what it is without you, with your passion and what you brought to this space. Whether you're a parent, a policymaker, or simply someone who cares about the future of our children, you belong here, and we want to see you back in season 5. We look forward to seeing you back. We're holding a space. We have a chair with your name on it, so don't let us down. As Hassan reminded us, starting messy, that means that we're still in the game, because education, it seems like it's a messy place right now, but it's not clean and it's not linear, but it's layered, it's personal, it's corporate, and at times it's frustrating, but it's necessary. It's worth it for the continuity of our culture and our society. And the fact that you're willing to wade into this mess and offer your perspective, it means that you're not sitting back waiting on change. You're a part of the change. So again, we thank you for your contributions, and we know that this transformation isn't perfect, but it begins with people who dare to try. So we say thank you to our visionary, Hassan Thompson, for leading us in this journey, and we are looking forward to what you have for us in season 5. Be blessed.
There's another bouquet of flowers that I just want to throw right at the feet of somebody who goes unrecognized as it relates to the success of the Educator's House. And her name is Leticia Wilson. Leticia is the moderator of our chat on YouTube. Most of you guys here are very present in the space, and I do stand in deep gratitude for your presence. However, my goal is to broaden our experience where we get the chance to talk to each other and all of that. It's a great dynamic. I thank you, Clubhouse, and the whole app. But the scale is on YouTube. And so to whatever degree you can let folks know what's happening and the fact that they can get this vicarious experience over on YouTube. Leticia has been holding it down. Just to let you know a little bit about who she is a professional pursuing her PhD while serving at the university level, at the college level, I should say. She interfaces directly with faculty members, and so she really does represent the voice for those who want to make change. And she's part of a significant paradigm shift in education as well, and a critical and important member of the Educator's House, because she, how do I say, YouTube is not all that popular right now. There's far more people here than there are over there watching the live stream. But she's getting her chops. She's keeping it active. She's hitting the chat. And so to you, ma'am, I stand in deep gratitude. You are important to how this business functions. And without you, what's happening over there would not be as fruitful. And so I just stand in deep gratitude for you as well. Miss Cleo came up on stage at 2 hours and 14 minutes late. So we're going to mark your attendance, ma'am. But I do want to give you an opportunity to greet the chat as we close out. Is there anything that you would like to share? I'm even going to make you a mod so that we can make sure we get all your participation points locked in, okay? Miss Cleo, why don't you close us out, actually? I don't know if you're prepared for that, but I'll just throw the mic at you and give you the final word. Ma'am, the mic is yours.
Oh, that's some pressure. Well, one big thank you to Hassan for curating a space where it's not just about chit chatting. There's real learning that's happening on a regular basis, pushing a thought and challenging the status quo in education in ways that really matter. Like Hassan's an amazing person, y'all. Just like beyond the Educator's House, just Hassan. So I wanted to say that, Carla, I've really appreciated your diverse perspective that you offer into the space. It's been very rewarding. Black to glory. I love you being you. It's a very interesting concept on a regular basis. So I appreciate that. Um, Others who are here, shout out to y'all. This is a space to grow, learn, push your own thought, be willing to challenge, be willing to share, and be willing to do a little bit of reading and watching. I look forward to what's to come. I really look forward to being a part of whatever Hassan has in his next chapter. And hopefully there's ways that we can, help him in his vision in growing. So I don't know if that's even on par with what was being discussed, but I do appreciate this space and how I've seen it evolve since season one. As a season one, when we had lunch break and those type of things in here, which was
Yep.
quite fun. I'm looking forward to what comes next. So thank you, and my apologies for the tardiness. A few things kind of changed my schedule.
No, I'm just giving you a hard time. I understand a little bit, only a little bit about your schedule dynamic. With that being said, we're shutting this room down. We're closing it down in 5. If you haven't done so yet, find 5 people that you can pour into. A small act of kindness goes a very long way. Shutting it down in 4. We are here for you. I could have done a little private Zoom, but this is for the good of the group. This is designed to be an expansive model. So the next time that you come, please ping someone in, find a link, share it along so that we can grow. I cannot grow without you, right? So your organic sharing, saying something remarkable about what's happening in Educator's House is critical for the business model. We're closing it down in 3. This is a we thing, so we don't all have to agree, but we can certainly do so respectfully. And so to all the people who are still on stage and those who have come and gone, I thank you for your decorum, given our structure and culture here, your transparency, your courageous honesty, and your pouring in to advance the Educator's House and our mission. We're closing this room down in 2. As the humble host, I am here to serve. So please hit me in my back channel. Let me know how I can improve. I probably talk too damn much. So let me know how I can facilitate this. I have 3 core values when I run my rooms, which is safe, valuable, and productive. If I fall short on any of those, please let me know so that I can improve my practice. And finally, we're going to close this room down in one. Yes, you who's listening to me right now, not everybody else, but you're the one. You're the most important part to this whole thing. And so do all of us a favor. Engage in some healthy self-care between now and the next time we see each other. I've already got a room planned, so let me pull up that link in case you want to add me to your calendar now. I'm going to post this last link, which is the link to the next room. I will see you guys again next week, Sunday, where I'm dealing with a new topic. I don't have it now, and I don't want to waste your time. Oh, it's an homage to our very own Frederick Douglass. You want the harvest? Till the soil. So next week, we're going to talk about some of the hard work that's necessary to really get season 5 launched properly. And so I would appreciate your presence as we continue this intercession and get ready for season 5. Okay, that was far more words than I promised I would give. So with that said, I'm out. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you, YouTube, as well. I appreciate you. I'm not going to waste too much more of your time either. So this plane is officially landed. Please feel free to debark. Good luck out there in the internet streets. I'm out. I always have a hard time finding the button. Where's the darn button on this thing? I need a blooper for the number of times that I make